you very much, Ivan. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I think we just crossed the noon time. Hope that you have a cup of coffee or you have your lunch with you today as we go through. So my name is Wendy, and thank you, Ivan, for the introduction. And today I'm here to share with you on how you can protect yourself from scams and hackers. I believe many, if not all of you, are familiar or heard of the term scams or hacks, or even more recently so from social media and news, as we continue to see the rise in the number of scams and cybercrime cases in Singapore. In fact, I think it has come to realization to many by now that cybercrimes and scams are no longer just targeting nation states and companies, something, it could be viewed as far away from us. But now it's really at individuals. We're hearing more and more. And like you and me, right, and our family members of young and elderly as well. So today we'll come together to go through and learn more about scams and cybercrimes and how we can basically build a better cyber hygiene and habits and take precautions to stay safe. So for the next 40 to 45 minutes, I'll be sharing with you firstly a little bit about myself, how to differentiate between hacking and scamming. Both are equally bad, no doubt about that, but I think it's important for us to know what are some of the difference so we are able to identify and we're able to avoid falling victims to them. What are the top cyber risks and scams in Singapore we are seeing today? And a little bit about what exactly is cybersecurity. A term has been frequently mentioned on social media and news. And why is it important? Why does it matter to us? And finally, how can we protect ourselves to stay safe while we are connected to the internet and technology as we go about doing our daily life? Technology and internet is tightly integrated into our life. We can't really, live without it in order to go about doing our things, let it be working from home, using video conferencing or accessing to webinar right now, doing our online shopping, using our phone and application to connect to the world via the social media or making your online banking transaction or any form of transaction that you need to do. And we will leave some time as we wrap up to have Q&A. So a little bit about myself. I think Ivan had shared quite a bit, but maybe let me just add on a bit. That I've been working in the cyber industry for about 20 years, taking up different roles and in various capacity, from individual sales contributor to leadership role, covering both local as well as regional market in Southeast Asia. And currently I work as a regional director at CrowdStrike, which is a global leader in cybersecurity. And at the same time, I volunteer as the AiSP ESCO member. So for many of you may or may not familiar with AiSP. So AiSP is basically an independent cybersecurity association that believe in developing, supporting, as well as enhancing industry technical competency and management expertise, right, with the intent to really to promote the integrity, the status, as well as the interests of information security professionals in Singapore. And there are many initiatives today that is led by AiSP. One of the key initiatives is really about cyber wellness, reaching out to the community, to our friends and family, to promote about awareness of cybersecurity and how we can stay safe online with the community, just like today's webinar that we have. And cybersecurity has actually become a more trending career choice as well among those who are early in a career or just entering to starting their career, and their family could be interested as well. So I also want to touch a bit about my day job. So I work as a regional director at CrowdStrike, looking after different markets. So, and basically responsible for driving the sales revenue growth and market development in each of these markets. And I don't do it alone. I work together with a team of capable sales and technical team in-country, as well as the local cybersecurity industry partners and network in-country to provide the world-class cloud-native cybersecurity technology, as well as proactive services to mid and large enterprises, as well as government. And through our CrowdStrike leading technology, innovation, and expertise, we are able to keep our customer ahead of today's adversaries and stop them from breaches. So in short, the mission that we had in CrowdStrike is really helping our customers to stop breaches. And I think that is really a great mission we have, and even ever so relevant in today's context. So enough about myself, right? Let's get into the topic of today. So let's firstly look at what is the difference between hacking and scamming. Since today's topic is really focusing about scam and hack. So hack and scam are on the rise in Singapore, right? So essentially the difference between a hack and a scam is that hackers use their technical ability in information technology to gain access to your computer, to your devices, right? To be able to steal your information, your data, your personal or confidential information. On the other hand, a scammer will trick the victim into giving them the same access. So instead of directly having the access to your computer or devices, they trick you into giving them, very often giving them your password credential, your OTP, etc. So it might not seem important to distinguish between a hack and a scam, but knowing the difference helps us to know how these crimes are committed and also give you a better chance to detect and avoid them. So in the next few slides, we will examine on each cases to see whether you can spot whether which one is hack and which one is scam. I have prepared quite a number of examples. So just for some fun, as well as awareness, right? Let's see whether we can spot the difference. Let's look at the first one. It comes in the form of an email, right? It says that it's from FedEx, a very common, reputable logistic company, frequently used by companies or e-commerce platform that we use to, deliver our package or parcel. So in this email, it states that the courier was unable to deliver the parcel to you and requesting you to print the shipment label by downloading the file in the email. Whereas you can see from this email, one thing you might have also noticed is the email address, right? It doesn't look like anything like FedEx. There isn't a clear domain. The name, is also not clear. So what would you think this might be? And just nice, you're actually expecting a delivery from your online purchase or from your company. So should you be clicking on this file? And is this a hack or a scam? We're asking you to download a file, basically. So it is a hack. So why is it a hack? So you have been asked to download a file to your computer or devices. The downloaded file, after you open, which you will execute it unknowingly, in this case, is known as a ransomware, which allowed the hacker to gain access to your device and data on the computer. So in this case, the ransomware will encrypt all the data, like your personal folder, your photos, everything that is still important to you in your computer. And they will demand a payment in the form of ransom, right? That's why it's called ransomware. For you to make a payment before they give you the encryption key so that you can encrypt the data and take back the data. And payment of ransomware is very often in cryptocurrency, like in the form of Bitcoin, because it's harder to trace and track the hacker down. Okay, so I hope you get it right. And let's look at the next one. Also coming from, a company that we're very familiar with, Netflix. Right, you receive an email from Netflix, though once again, the email address doesn't look quite like Netflix, right? But there are very often situations whereby they can, give a very similar Netflix email address as well. And now it's requesting you to update your billing information as Netflix is unable to receive your payment for monthly subscription. And coincidentally, for your Netflix subscription, you put as an auto monthly deduction as part of the subscription, just like I do. And over in this email, it's asking you to click try again payment. right? Because there's a payment failure, now asking you to click to try again for the payment and update your billing information. So in this case, do you proceed with the clicking? Is this a hack or a scam? In this case, it is a scam because the sender is trying to trick you, right, to click on it and direct you to this fake online portal, whereby I ask you to, give them your banking information as you click on it. And very often these are these fake websites that look like your local banking, portal to do your banking transaction, update your banking information. In reality, they are actually stealing the information from you as you key in. And once they get hold of your information, they can do a lot more things. And next, this is something that is really common that we are seeing now. And I guess I've already also give away some of the information around this for you to guess whether it's a hack and scam. So this is something that's quite common that we have seen it, basically asking you to scan a QR code to get a free drink, do an online survey to win a prize or some cash. So in this case, could it be a hack or a scam when you receive this, let it be on a WhatsApp message on your phone, an email that's sent to you, or even it can be a poster at your neighborhood. In this case, for QR code, it can be a hack and a scam. So QR code can be quite tricky. As you can see on the right side, some of the notes that I've provided. Why do I say so? Because number one, a QR code can lead you to a fake website. So basically, through the fake website, asking you to disclose personal data, like in the form of an online form or an online survey. They ask you to fill out personal information. And number two, a QR code can also download malicious software onto your device. Right, later we will talk more to help you to understand about what are some of the malicious software that we are seeing today as one of those top few cyber risks in the market. And number three, the QR code can send an email from your account. What does that mean to your friends or contacts? So scammers can actually program the codes to open payment sites, follow social media accounts, and send pre-written email. For example, if you scan a malicious QR code that is sent to you via email, right? Maybe on the phone, sometimes you just, saw it on the email and you just click on it. It can compose an email and send an email from your account to your contacts. So it is actually very difficult to differentiate a fake and a genuine QR code. So always check the source before scanning and do not get tempted by quick and easy money or free gifts from unknown sources. So typically it always come with, free gifts, free cash, right? Free money out from nowhere. So I think it's very important for us to check the source. And many times, these messages can come from unknown companies, unknown source as well. So last one I have, the words may be a bit small, okay, but this basically reads that there is a message sent to you congratulating you for winning 940 Sing dollar in a campaign, which you may or may not remember you have entered any campaigns, right? But in order for you to collect this win, you will need to provide your banking account information via a form. And the person will tell you that, a confirmation code for the transfer will be sent to you. And in return, you need to provide them with your bank OTP before you receive your wins. So this is clearly a scam. And in this case, it is known as a social media impersonation scam, something we are seeing very frequently and getting more and more of a concern, right, in the recent context. So very often, social media impersonation scam, they will approach on social media on the pretext of you joining or voting in a fake campaign organized by local brands that you're familiar with, can be Grab, Carousel, Shopee, Lazada, you name it. Basically, those names that you use on quite a regular basis. So you will not really be, suspicious of them if you're not careful. since these apps often also have their own promotion and lucky draws that you may or may not have clicked on, right? So when they say that you have win something from one of these campaigns, if you're not careful and think again, right, you have the tendency to agree with it. And same as what we have seen on the left, the scammers will ask for the OTP, right, in order to receive the gifts and wins. And the OTP is basically generated when you provide your banking information to the fake form, right, that used to access your actual banking information. So when they ask you to key in the banking information on a fake form, they use this information to actually access to your actual banking account. And as we know that when you access your actual banking account, the bank will often send you the OTP. So they use that, right, and ask you to send the OTP that is generated to you to send back to them. And very often, because you're in constant communication with the scammer, typically when you win a prize and they have been very responsive to you, you will be looking at your phone and trying to communicate. It may or may not occur to you that the OTP that is actually sent to you was actually like a regular OTP to, give you the 6-digit one-time password when you're accessing your online bank account or you're making a transaction, right? So the scammer will make use of this to access your bank account to approve transaction. And in some cases, they can also use this same method to take over your social media account, right? Same way to use your social media account to scam others. So that can be done as well. So I hope you have some fun guessing the hacks and scam and learn more about each one of them. Today, I would say that the hack and scams are really evolving on a weekly or even daily basis. There are just so many out there of different nature. But I'll say so far in terms of observation, the tactics, right, we have seen is mostly are those that, we'll be sharing here today. So it's good for us to learn about, what are some of the tactics, right? The nature of it could be different ways, which I will also share later on as well. What are some of the top 10 scams that we are seeing in Singapore today? So that aside, what are some of the top cyber risks in Singapore we are seeing? We have recognized some earlier, but let's deep dive more to understand each of them better, right, from the hacker perspective. We earlier on talked a lot about downloading malware, etc. So basically, malicious software, or known as malware, is used to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to a computer. And is most commonly downloaded through phishing emails. The example we have seen earlier on from the FedEx email, asking you to download a file that is said to be the shipment label, right? But in actual fact, it's packaged. What is packaged inside is actually a malware, ransomware in the case. And cyber criminals, they develop this malware to basically infiltrate, right? To get into your computer system, to steal and also to destroy sensitive information. And what are some of the most common goals of a malware attack? The first one, which is the most obvious and most common one, is profits, right? To get a profit out from you. Secondly is sabotage. Thirdly, stealing your confidential information. Make a statement or even as a bragging rights. Right? And there are many different types of malware. Some of the common types of malware we've seen here. The first one is ransomware. We covered that earlier in the first example, and we'll talk more after this slide as well. Second one is spyware. Right? Spyware is often used to monitor your online activity, right, and direct you. It has the ability to also direct you to certain websites, right, like the fake websites, and thereafter can steal your information. Trojan is often hidden as an email attachment or free to download file or application. And sometimes it may be directed to a website that they may have some little pop-ups and ask you to download for free certain things. So Trojan could be packaged into this, and you'll be misled to download. And hacker will make use of it to either spy on you or to steal your information. Adware. Adware is basically you're downloading unwanted advertisements, and these unwanted advertisements, very often from unknown source, will also direct you to fake malicious website, again to steal your information. Keyloggers. Keyloggers, they basically keep track and record your keystroke as you type. It is a form of spyware also, with the intent to steal your sensitive information. Like if they record your keystroke, they'll be able to know what exactly is your password, what is your credential to gain access to your personal accounts, or even your company systems. Right. So ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware, right? You see it in the first example that encrypts your files, and often they will encrypt either everything, your whole hard disk, or they will encrypt knowing that your personal files, your photos, especially in the photos folder, right? And if you have any folder that is clearly labeled as personal or sensitive information, they will do that. But most of the time, they will just encrypt everything, right, to make it easy for the bad actors. So they will freeze your device, and then they will demand payment from you. That's why it's called ransomware, right, in order to restore your access to your data. And this remains a major issue in Singapore and globally as well, right? So it's very evident that ransomware is not just targeting at nation states and companies, but also at individuals. And why is this so? You can see there is a 13% increase in ransomware incidents worldwide last year. And we believe based on data that is coming up in 2023, we should see being an even higher number. And this one of the reasons is also because that ransomware as a service is now readily accessible, right, at relatively low cost, like how you subscribe a Netflix, right? Or also how you buy certain things on demand. It's the same way how hackers now can purchase ransomware, right? On demand in the dark web. So dark web is basically an underground market for the e-criminals. So what they usually do is using this low-cost ransomware as a service, right? They can just based on a spray and pray attacks. Right? Basically, you mean just cast a net and see who they catches, and targeting at all individuals. And many more than often, those who are more vulnerable, those are probably less IT savvy, less aware about what is happening in today's cybersecurity landscape, may fall victim to them. Next is phishing. So one of the most common online scam tactics, right, that we have seen, they basically trick you into giving them personal and financial information, such as your banking account, credential, passwords, and also OTP by clicking on the link. And reported phishing cases is on the rise, right, double in 2022 compared to 2021. And later on, we will see, as one of the top 10 scams, you will see how high the number is right now. So what are some of the signs of phishing? Mismatch and misleading information, right? Number one, email sender and info do not match. Example, if you recall the first two email we have on FedEx and Netflix, right? The email sender clearly doesn't match the content, Netflix or FedEx. That is pretty obvious. But there are certain cases, of course, they will have some similar naming convention, right? So it's important for us to double check on that. Example, like an email from a healthcare provider, right, asking for banking information, right? That is really a very suspicious reason, because no hospital today will ask you for your banking information on an email, right? And secondly, I'm not expecting any email from the senders, right? There's no relationship, there's no engagement. And thirdly is email or SMS suggesting your loved one are in danger and ask for payment by clicking on a link. So always validate if that's the case. Do not trust the email and SMS. Right? Always validate to see where your loved one or people that's with your loved one, just to validate. Right? Suspicious attachment, right? A promise of huge sum of money, but then they are asking for upfront payment from you. And finally, asking for confidential information, like asking for your banking information, personal data, right? So no legitimate organization today will actually ask you for your banking information, personal data, right, over an email, over SMS today, right, or WhatsApp. So these are very obvious telltale signs but very often in today's busy, hectic schedule of each one of us, sometimes we tend to forget. So it's really important for us to refresh all this information that seems obvious, but we may forget, when the time comes. And finally, social engineering. So if you recall earlier, we covered example of social engineering, which is the social media impersonation, or impersonation of a reputable organization to manipulate into thinking that you win a cash from a campaign and then asking you for your bank one-time password. So in general, the social engineering is using psychological tactics to manipulate people into taking desired action, like giving out their confidential information. And the most common tactic is impersonating reputable organization, or even, like those that we have covered, it can be reputable organization that we're familiar with, like our, logistic companies, banks, e-commerce platform, or even government organization, right? Or legitimate individual, like your friend, right? Someone that you know, to obtain your personal or financial information. So example, I have covered social media impersonation, and there is also like fake friend, SMS or WhatsApp call, right? And phishing email. So what are some of the top 10 scams that we have seen in Singapore today? You may find these infographics quite familiar, as it has also been recently published by the Singapore Police Force over social media and the news. So if you look at these infographics, I think by no surprise, right, you will see that the highest by number of cases is a phishing scam. Because phishing scam is also a very much spray and pray kind of attack techniques, right? That is very widely used by both hackers as well as by all the scammers as well. So it's really a combination, right, in this case. And followed by job scams, e-commerce scams, investment scams. You can see these three, right after the phishing scam is really about going after your money, and very often it always give a promises of high returns, low commitment, right? Huge similarity. We're offering you like a job. E-commerce scams is mainly about online purchases, maybe selling you something really cheap, but in return, you have to make an upfront payment of X amount, at the same time disclosing your banking information, right? Or buying something from you at really high price, higher than what you offered, right? But in order to do that, they need information from you, things like that. And investment scam, same. And then there's also fake friend call scams, social media impersonation, and loan scams, internet love scams, government official impersonation scams. You can see quite a few impersonation scams and credit for sex scams. And among these top 10 scams, job and investment scam, they top the chart for the most amount of money reported, right, to be cheated. And this amount will average around 33,000 per reported cases. So it's a quite high value amount. And I believe it's also because they will promise you even higher returns, right, in order to get the higher sum of money. So for job scam, it often involve upfront payment in return for very high pay with very little commitment, like very little commitment, maybe few hours of a time, something that's very easy to do, that you get paid a lot of money. But firstly, you have to pay them maybe $500, $1,000 or more. Or what investment scams, on the other hand, where they offer promises of very high returns, right, with low investment. And they know that, people may doubt about the investment. So very often such investment scams will also couple with fake testimonial. So they will give fake testimonials of people who has made real money, right? So you will think that people who have made real money from this, so it has to be real, right? But little do we know that all these testimonies are also of fake, and reviews as well, right? Because they know that people will also check. So that's when they also provide. But yeah, the thing is do not check from the same source, right? So that's also the thing, right? So basically trick you into believing them, therefore handing over your money to them. And typically investment scams, they will ask for more money from you or even more returns, right? That's the reason why the average reported cases for these scams are rather high in this case. And next, you can look at some statistics over here. It shows that the number of scam cases in Singapore has actually increased by 33%, right, from 2021 to 2022. And based on the current trends we have seen, it's going to increase even more, right? And the spray and pray tactics I talked about many times of scammers are also pretty effective. As you can see, it's actually reaching out to a wide range of different age group, making almost everyone, I can say almost 70% of the population vulnerable, right? And therefore, it's important for us to learn more about the scams so that we can also, impart what we learn, right, to our friends and family who may be less aware or, fall within this more vulnerable group, so that they can actually protect themselves as well. Right? So everyone should equip with the knowledge, the awareness, as well as some of the cyber hygiene steps that everyone should take to protect ourselves. And always be vigilant. We will talk more about it later. All right, let's take a step back, right, to really also look at what exactly is cybersecurity. We learned a lot earlier on cyber threat, scams, landscape that is happening in recent years and today. So let's now take a step back to learn about cybersecurity and why is this important. So in essence, cybersecurity is about putting in place people, process, and technology, right, the practice to protect the assets they are or can be exposed to any form of digital attacks. And often these assets include valuable information, for a corporate case like client information, trade secrets, your IPs, contracts, right? And for our cases, it's very much around our personal information, our privacy. And I always like to have this simple analogy of cybersecurity, right? It really encompasses what we are looking at today, right? Like a house with valuables, like your house that is filled with gold or diamonds, and the gold and diamonds in the digital context for us is really all our crown jewel in terms of our personal information, right? Which is and our identity, and we're trying to protect this from constant intruders. In the case of scammers and hackers, right, that we can relate to, they are quick trying to break into this house with all this information, all these crown jewels. And to protect these crown jewels, number one, we need to have a process. Right? We need a process to check the identity of these visitors. We want to install locks everywhere and video cameras to monitor every corner of the house, in and out of the intrusion. We want to check every cracks and gaps in the house regularly to make sure that if you have a hole or the crack is getting longer and wider, we want to mend it, right? We don't want to be a case that the intruder will make use of this hole or this crack that's getting bigger to knock it out to be even bigger and use it to enter into your house, right? And so in the same way, when it comes to digital assets, right, we need to protect them in the same way, right, for both enterprises, private organization, government, and also at the individual level like you and I, as we are facing similar risk exposure and landscape. Right? We understand that as individual and you and I, we have limited resources, right, when it comes to implementing, cybersecurity practice and processes. But there are still simple and important ways that we can do to protect ourselves, and we will learn more about it in a very short while. And now we know about what is cybersecurity. Then the next question is that why does it matter to me? Why does it matter to you, right? Because let's look at the first thing. We live in a world that is digitally connected. Singapore has been ranked as one of the most digitally connected country in the world. Our daily life evolves around technology and internet every day to go about doing our daily lives like online banking, government e-services, online food, groceries ordering, and social media, right? And even like video conferencing, like what we are doing right now, to really stay connected with the world, with one another, right? And always be the forefront. But cyber crimes are also on the rise, right? In the 2021 report from our National Cybersecurity Agency, CSA, it shows that there's a 43% increase in the overall cybercrime. And with more than 9,000 cases in 2020 compared to the last 3 years, and given for the more recent online scam incidents, we should be expecting even higher numbers. So most of the cyber crimes also led to data loss, identity theft, financial losses. So in 2022, I believe most of you will still remember, right? It was reported the most, I think one of the most prominent phishing scam cases, which is the OC-based phishing scam, right? It alone contributed to a financial loss of 13.7 million, right? And most of these losses are from the hard-earned savings of individuals, right? Not corporate individuals. And finally, right, if we are not careful, right, and our devices, and we become victims of these cyber crimes, our devices can be compromised and exploited in the process, right, by the bad guys. And not only we get compromised, they can actually use our devices as a launch pad for malicious activity to target others. Or they can use our account, in the case of social media accounts, your email accounts, right, as a launch pad. So your friend may think that they're receiving a message from you, they're receiving an email from you, but in reality, it's an impersonation that they are using you, impersonating you to get money, get information from your friends and family. So cybersecurity is really a team sport. I always like to say that cybersecurity is a team sport, right? And in CrowdStrike, we always say one team, one fight. That we need to, each of us do our part to keep ourselves safe and to protect ourselves and others as well, right? And the closest, what I can really relate to is really about how we keep ourselves safe during the pandemic, right? The pandemic that how we've been going about doing our hygiene practices, right? To make sure that everyone is safe. We have good hygiene practice. We take our vaccines. We wear masks when we are not well, so that we don't get infected or we don't infect others. So in the same way for cybersecurity, right, we also need to be good citizens of cyber hygiene as well, right, to be responsible for the community, I would say, for ourselves and for the community. So how can we protect ourselves, right? So we have here so much about the cyber threats and scams. So in the next couple of slides, right, I will share with you 6 tips. I've consolidated 6 tips, and hopefully you can remember all of them to help you to stay safe from the hacks and the scams. Okay, so these are the 6 tips. I will go through each one of them in details. All right. So the first one, secure your account, right? Use long randomized account for password for every account. So basically, I think in today's context, for most of, if not all of the login, they requested you to have certain password, minimum password requirement. And typically it's going to be longer, than 5 or 6. And typically it's supposed to be randomized. But my recommendation is always to go one step beyond, what is the minimum, right? But we also understand that may also, bring about, a potentially another inconvenience, is that because generally when you have a very long randomized password, right, sometimes it's also hard for you to remember. So end up you may reuse, right? If you're not very good in remembering, you might tend reusing or having that same few passwords. So it could also be a potential problem, right? If you're just using that one or two, so you need to have more, right, in order to prevent that for reuse password. Because more than 80% of breaches today are due to weak password. A lot of them are due to weak password. So another way, right, to step up from firstly having good hygiene on the password is you can consider using a password manager. So there are free and paid password manager for reputable companies, right, in the market you can consider. So you don't have to keep using the same password over and over again, and that will be a problem in itself, right? And generally, password manager are quite safe because your credentials are basically encrypted and stored in the vault itself, right? So it can help you to manage your password. But on top of that, right, we should also, right, use multi-factor authentication whenever possible to be more secure. Beside password, we need to have multi-factor authentication, right? Like a second factor authentication where you're using your internet banking, SingPass, social media, etc. Right. The nature of multi-factor authentication is beside a password, you need a second factor of authentication. Right. So it can be a SMS, can be a soft token. Nowadays, banks using the Digi token, right, as well. So many different ways that you can do out of physical token to make it basically difficult for the bad guys to access to your account, because that is another factor of authentication to prove that it is who you are. And also, right, it serves as a warning or an alert if others are trying to access your account. So for the case that if you are not doing any transaction, right, and you're just watching your TV, sitting there with your family, and you receive a SMS from the bank that, oh, you have requested for this one-time password for this transaction example, you will clearly know that someone is trying to access your account, right? So the first thing to do is to call the bank, right, to verify. And change your password if you suspect you have been compromised, right? So one of the practice that is it for most organization or or people who are really want to be super secure, right? Like for myself, right? I have that practice or the habit to make sure that I change my password every 6 months. So that will ensure that the password will not get too old and eventually able to guess as well. And for additional security, you can also use random answers for security questions. So add in additional challenge response, basically, right? Add in security questions to make it more difficult, right, for them to access. Because as you know, there is such thing as social engineering, right? So beside just now we talked about using psychology, another area is also that they can actually track your social media, so they will know your behavior, where you go to, where you work at, where you schooling, etc. Or even the area that you stay. So don't use these very easily identifiable answers, right, for your security question. Put something that maybe only you yourself know, just to make it more difficult, right, for people to access your account or even attempt to do a password reset. Second, click with caution. I think we talk about it many times. As you can see, phishing scam has been a #1 scam in today. So let's be really skeptical, right? What is the source, right? Whether the offer is too good to be true, right? So we always want to hover over the link, right? And if it's a link is too long, maybe you want to cut and paste somewhere for you to have a look. So check that whether this website, has a SSL certificate to say that the website is secure, right? It's encrypted, and at the same time also check the domain to see whether it actually matches, right, with what it's supposed to be. If the link looks suspicious, do not click on it, right? That's advice. Do not click on it. Do not rush into clicking on anything today. I have to say, pause, check, validate, right, before you click on any link. And when in doubt, right, best is throw it away. Right? I always believe that it's something that is really urgent enough, they will call you, right? Or they will meet you, etc. It will not be through an email, through an SMS, through a WhatsApp. And avoid launching email attachment, especially for unknown sources, right? Because as you know, that will cause you to unintentionally download malware, right, software. And do not run macros in Office document. I mean, macro is not a function that you will use, it's by developers, so it's not you and I who will use macros. But certain times you may unintentionally downloaded certain hidden application, right? Like a Trojan, and we talk about a Trojan malware. Then in order to activate it, you have to run macros, and sometimes it will pop out on your screen asking you to run macros. So do not click on it to run the macros, okay? Because running macros run the risk of executing the malicious software on your computer itself. Number 3, keep software up to date. I think this is a message that has been consistent, I think, throughout the cyber hygiene, practice that we have. And this is still very, very important. Enable auto update feature actually help you to constantly have access to and update with the latest software updates, right, which will cover patches for vulnerabilities, right? Because we might have the tendency to forget. So if you are the type that has a tendency to forget, right, or take a long time before you do an update, enabling auto update will be good for you. And always check regularly for application update, right? To make sure, because there's an increasing number of software vulnerabilities, right? That is coming out every day, every week. The hacker basically can make use of the vulnerability to exploit it and hack into your devices. So it's very important for us to make sure that we regularly update this application and apply the updates as soon as possible. Do not delay your software update, especially if it's released as a critical update. So nowadays, if you check on the updates, let it be on your computer devices, on your mobile devices, or your iPad, etc., smart devices, when they release a patch, right? If you have a closer look at it on the explanation, on the details, it will always firstly tell you how critical it is, why is it critical, what is this patch or update addressing, right? Besides feature capability, a big part that you will see is how it addresses the vulnerabilities, right? That is exists in that current version, right? So if it's a critical update, particularly that address high severity vulnerability, I think just very recently, I think the iOS has released, Apple has released a very critical patch, right? They require everyone to update urgently. So we need to really take that very seriously, right? And apply it as soon as possible. I know it can be a hassle, but I think it will do more damages to us, right, than inconvenience if we don't act on it. Because in such situation, the hackers can do major damages through exploiting these vulnerabilities, right? Some of which can even do a takeover of your devices, right? So the consequences can be pretty serious. And number 4, right, in this digital time and age, we are connected to the world through many applications. So only install and run application from official application stores, right? So download from the official stores, check the developers' information, reviews, and rating. Because as we learned earlier, that the bad guys can also, use fake application to trick you into giving them the information, right? So what you can do is that you can disable install unknown app or unknown sources in your setting. And I think this is more for the Android phone, right? Because iPhone currently prohibits you from installing unknown application or from unknown sources. But I think, I've been reading some news that maybe that might change in the future as well, as, the application market kind of open up. So we need to be extra vigilant about it. And number 5 is really protect our privacy, right? Number 1, we assume that everything you put online, right, is public. Right? Let it be sometimes when you control your private setting that is only for friends or what. In this time and age, we need to really assume that everything is public. And for that, we should not give away our personal information, right? So do not put your personal information online. And when you use free Wi-Fi hotspots, right, avoid websites that retain your personal data, right? So when they ask you whether you want to store your information, please uncheck it And if the website is asking you to do this, think twice whether you still want to continue, right? And avoid unfamiliar Wi-Fi source, right? Use trusted Wi-Fi. Like in Singapore, we can use our wireless .sg, right? Trusted source, or create your hotspot, right? Via your smartphone if you need to, access data, right? For your computer, etc. So that's one thing that you can do to be more secure. And if you can, disable your Wi-Fi when you're not in use, right? To avoid tracking, right? So that's also one thing that we can do to protect our privacy, because as we all know that, when by accident, if you install, like a spyware, right? These are different means and ways that they can use to actually track you through Wi-Fi example. And avoid saving credit card data or information online, right? There are many sites today that will always ask you to save your credit card data information. My advice is try not to if you can. I know there are some inconvenience when you have to retype in, but giving away your financial or personal information to more and more places also means that you are, actually creating a larger attack or resurface, right, for yourself. So there is certain trade-off, right, inconvenience, but I think that is worthwhile, right, because it just take once to be scammed or hacked, then the damages sometimes can be, not everyone can handle that, right? So that is something that I would really recommend. And if you think that it's difficult because convenience is important, you're actively using, all these sites to do your online transaction, etc., right? You may want to set limit on the internet banking transaction, right? So that will also help in a way that to limit your damages, right? So that's another one area that we can also look at. And finally, number 6 is stay vigilant at all times. I think this is it's very obvious, but I think it's really, really important, constant reminder to one another, right? I think that works, as well. The dubious claim of easy money, really should not be trusted. Low investment, high returns. I always have this saying, right? I never believe in free money, right? Usually people will take more money from you, right? And slow down, right? Check and verify source of information, right? Like the website, investment company, job offers, QR code. And be skeptical of people contacting you out of the blue, right? Claiming to be someone you know, but yet, playing cold at who they are. There's this recent, I think, scam calls, right? That's getting very rampant, that they may call you, say that, hey, do you remember me? I'm Peter, and I'm your old time friend. Do you remember me? And they will use that to talk to you, right? And very often they somehow know your name as well. So this is quite a frequent tactic, right? So we're very skeptical about it. If you can install the Scam Shield app to help you to really reduce the scam based on those known reported ones, and you can use the app to also report any scams, right, that you have come across. Install anti-malware solutions on your personal devices, right? In today's market, they are antivirus and the malware solution for your devices, right? In the official application store on the mobile devices, on your laptop, they can purchase as additional layer of defense to protect. But in the most unlikely and unforeseen situation that you become victim of a hack or a scam, right? There are a couple of things that we should do. The first thing is to change your password immediately. Right? Run a full system scan if you have the antivirus installed, right? If you have click a link or open an attachment, alert your bank immediately, right? If you have given your banking or credit card details, like I mentioned, one of the cases, if you receive a one-time password, but you're not doing any transaction, quickly call the bank and inform them, right? and monitor all your accounts for suspicious activity, such as unauthorized purchases or withdrawal. Have the habit of checking maybe, once a month, so you is that you are more aware, but if there's anything that is suspicious. And lodge a police report if you incur any monetary loss, right? Report the ransomware and phishing attempt to the organization that was misinterpreted so that they are aware, right? And SingCert as well, right? SingCert at csa.gov.sg. And finally, call the police hotline or submit information online or via the Police at SG mobile app to report any scam. So reporting will help the authority in the investigation, right? And also help the rest so that, all these scams incident can be made known through public announcement by authority, right? Especially if there's an escalation of these new and common scams and hack tactics through all the reported cases. So let's help one another because cybersecurity is a team sport, right? And it matters to everyone. And these are my key takeaways for today's session, right? And really staying cyber online safe and vigilant at all times is really important. Report if you have been hacked or scammed, as I mentioned, right? Report is really important. And share this learning with your family and friends. Everyone needs to know, right? It's not limited to any age group, though, through the statistic, you see there are 3 age groups that are more vulnerable. But to me, everyone has a possibility of being scammed and hacked if we are not careful. If we take our eyes off, we are not careful, we act too fast, we are not thinking, right? So this is really everyone's responsibility and everyone should really learn and be aware. Yeah. So before I pass the time over to Ivan for Q&A, I also want to share, from my AiSP Association of this QISP exam, right? So for those who are interested to develop an interest or career in cybersecurity, this promotion may be of interest to you, right? So for a limited time, there's this bundle promotion of QISP. QISP is basically Qualified Information Security Professional exam, and the book of knowledge, right, that is curated to our industry veterans at special price of 216 after GST, right? There's information over there. If you want to know more, right, you can always go to the AiSP website to get more information as well. And going to hand over the time back to Ivan. I hope